Man, they really beat the shit out of Mahomes. That shit was crazy.
It was. It was. Never had a chance.
Never had a chance.
They got some decisions to make coming up. I was going over it yesterday with my brother. Like I don't know. They have the ability to, but they got some big contracts that they're going to have to make some decisions on coming up here.
They'll be all right. Fuck them. Fuck the Chiefs and everybody that love them.
Not Chuck, though.
All right, welcome in. We are back. It is Tuesday, February 11th. 9 a.m. start, a little bit delayed, kind of like a tea time. You're gonna show up, but you're not getting to the first tee for at least a couple extra minutes. You got to get your zins, your drinks, your edibles, and everything ready and out on the course. Spin. What is the deal, my guy? How are you today?
Oh man, it's a beautiful day. Had a senior night celebration for my son last night. He led the team in scoring, almost dropped a career high. Had a whole cheering section there that made custom T-shirts with his face on it. It was really cool. It was a really cool celebration, and we won. We won by a bunch. We covered like bad, so that was always good. But
we covered is crazy.
It was good, though. It was good. And because I'm wearing it, my Tigers are tops in the Coastal right now, 11-1. They've won 10 in a row. We are just absolutely rolling. Right now, Lenardi has us projected as either a 14 or a 15 seed. And depending on if that materializes, I'm not jumping ahead. If that materializes, depending on what 2 or 3 seed we would get, there is a chance for an upset. I will say there are some teams in that mix that we do not match up well with at all. There are a few that I would love to see us play. But we got to get there first because the Coastal is getting one team and one team only. And there's still at least 2 other teams in Charleston and Wilmington who will probably have something to say about that. But for now, I'm rocking my black and gold for my Tigers because 10 wins in a row. They're the hottest mid-major team in the country. So it's a good day all around. How about you?
We're always here for anything that might have to do with Towson, with the Towson Tigers. That's what we're here for. I don't know, man. I'm just excited to get back into the college football fray. It's been an interesting start to the week. We saw Baylor get that, they just look like Houston, man. We got to start talking a little bit more about Kelvin Sampson. He
got their swagger back. That's what I said last night in VIP when they got their swagger back.
You talk about a guy who always has his team ready to go. He's had some disappointments in the tournament, but man, the regular season at the Fertitta Center, he's never getting fired.
Yeah, no, it's they had a few games, Colorado and Oklahoma State, where they played just well enough to win. And I don't want to say they were on cruise control, but there were times where it kind of looked like they were on cruise control. We talked about it last week against Oklahoma State, which where you just play well enough so the outcome of the game is never in doubt. And that's kind of what they were last night. Last night was we're just going to go kick the shit out of you, because even though it ended up being an 11-point game at the end, it was not that close.
At all.
Baylor pressed and chucked and ran till the end to try to get back into it. Houston got into some early foul trouble in the second half, so they conceded a few baskets here and there to avoid fouling. But there was one point in the first half where I said this to a bunch of people. So there was one point in the first, like almost midway through the first half, where Baylor's effective field goal percentage, which is half of your threes plus your made field goals over your field goals attempted, was 93.8%, and they were down 6. I said, that's not even fair. It's not even fair when you shoot that well. They outshot Houston from effective field goal percentage for 95% of the game, and they got their ass kicked. That's how good Houston is.
I was just watching. I mean, bro, listen, Baylor's always gonna have pros. They're gonna always have talent. But man, Houston, I'm just Calvin Sampson, bro. His rightful place in history has been marred by scandal. But I can't name 10 college coaches that have been better than him all time.
Well,
obviously without winning a championship. I mean, for the guys that haven't won championships, he might be the best coach in the country without a championship. I think he's a better coach than Pearl.
Yeah, I mean, I think and my argument for Pearl has always been the same over and over again, is that he's a great hype guy. His kids love him. He gets his guys up, and he's a great recruiter. But is he a guy that you're going to trust down the stretch, X's and O's? I don't know. Maybe not. That's always been my take on Bruce Pearl. If you want a coach that's going to literally make you love him so much that he can just say run face first into that wall and you'll be like, okay, I'll do it for you, coach. That's Bruce Pearl. His guys love him, love his energy, but when it comes right down to it, X's and O's, I can't say he's a guy that I would always rely on. I really can't. It's the same kind of argument with Cal Perry, is that when it came right down to it, would I trust him X's and O's in crunch time? I don't know.
Because the players are always going to be better.
Well, yeah.
The players are always going to be more talented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I think of a guy that I would trust down the stretch, maybe even if he didn't have like all the quote unquote players from an X's and O's standpoint, I think of Tony Bennett. I think of I mean, he's obviously not coach anymore. I think of Coach K, even though he had great players. I think of Bobby Knight, God rest his soul. But guys like that are the guys that I would trust down the stretch from an X's and O's perspective. And just to out scheme and out, Chris Beard would be another one that I would think of from that perspective. Guys that can go in and just flat out coach the other guy.
Izzo was another one. Izzo.
Oh yeah, duh.
Izzo is the guy. You talk about knowing how to manipulate the fuck out of refs. Lord, Jesus.
And just how to manage a game. Just how to overall manage a game and manage the flow of a game so that you're there in the end. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a fact.
Dan Hurley would be another one, obviously. And, I think that Hurley gets actually underrated which sounds weird to say because of what they've done the last 2 years, but he really is a solid X's and O's guy. He really does know what he's talking about from an X's and O's perspective. But anyways, different story.
All right. Well, we are a few minutes into the show. Let's get straight to it. All right, straight into it. First play of the game tonight is coming from the Purdue at Michigan game. It's a short slate, or it's a short line. The game is at Michigan. I think people are all going to be on Michigan tonight. Not picking a side, but let me see if I can. Let me get the book up so people can see. In this one, I like the over. I think both teams should be able to operate offensively relatively well. I think both teams will be able to give up problems defensively. So my play on this one is going to be the over 149.5. Right now it's, let me get the on FanDuel right now it's at 150.5. But I do love the over. I think this game will be high level hoops. You're going to get an offensive barrage for both these teams tonight. Over 150. Set it and forget it. The refs are going to take care of us. They're going to make enough threes. Play the over with confidence. You have no problems tonight. Any thoughts on this one?
Right now you have total opened at 149. It's up to 149. Actually, it's up to 150.5 in some places. And right now you're having 69% of the bets, 71% of the money on the over for this one. So combination of what appears to be a few larger bets and the public steam is bumping this one up a little bit. I would expect this one to probably settle in the 150 to 151 range before the game gets going. But yeah, even though if not, that's fine too. Michigan does have some streak shooters, but for them, they have enough of them where if one's not hitting, any number of another ones could. They can just go on sprees. And when you go, once they get going, especially at home, they can be tough to slow down. So Purdue's probably going to have to score to keep up. So yeah, I totally agree with it.
Pace and shooting. I think that's what we get today. And that's my first play of the day. Obviously I'm going to have two, but go on to the next one. On to your first play of the day. Feel free to switch the screen to your.
I'll do it. All right. So for this one, we got Syracuse at Miami, Florida, 7 p.m. Eastern tip time. Got Miami, who's a favorite, which doesn't happen very often these days, and a total set at 153. And so for this one, for me, you have two defenses, one that has been really, really poor lately and one that has been really, really poor just in general. And so you also have two teams that play at a reasonably fast pace. And you have, the free throws are kind of a mixed bag, but it's more than enough for this one. So the official play is going to be on the over here. So first thing is you have a Syracuse team that plays at a top 125 pace in the country. And you also have a Miami team that is 138th in the country in potential points off of turnovers, steals, quick baskets, and a Syracuse team that is just horrendous at preventing them. You see right here with their turnover, overall turnover rate, sub 212, 17.7% turnover rate. It's actually been even worse lately. And on the road, Syracuse has had some really, really ugly shooting performances allowed, including they allow an over 52.4% on the road. Miami's defense is just kind of poor in general. The Hurricanes 360th in effective field goal percentage defense. Honestly, it doesn't get any better at home. This 57.5%, it only goes to 57, which would still put them 358th in the country. Over their last three, they're allowing 58%. And what they're really allowing too is Miami is allowing a lot of points on the inside, which is where Syracuse operates mostly. You see here, 56.1% of their points are from 2-point range. That's 23rd in the country. They make them at a decent clip. And Miami defense is just absolutely poor. 346th in 2-point percentage. And then the other thing that Miami has, while it's not noted on here, is they allow nearly almost 70% with on close twos. So meaning like within like 5 to 7 feet. They've allowed from 2-point range. They've allowed 57% in their last two games, including 61% in their last game. So you have a nice combination here where you have a decent pace. You have, while both teams aren't like the greatest at shooting the threes, their 3-point defenses, especially for Miami, is even worse. And Syracuse does have a few kids that can knock down from outside. So you add all this together and you have two teams with, quite frankly, not a whole lot to play for right now. Syracuse 11-13. Miami's season is just completely falling apart. And
Larinaga quit, right?
He retired midseason. I would guess that most of these guys on their team are probably going to go in the portal, and they're just going to do basically what like a college basketball version of a rebuild next year. So both teams are kind of playing for next year right now. And so when that happens, you can
Carmelo Anthony's son.
Yeah.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
Miami having that ridiculous NIL collective. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. You can get just what you can get in a situation like that is you can get just kind of a freewheeling game. They're not really whatever about seeding, whatever
Let's get our
about
stats today. Let's get some statistics on the board.
tournaments.
That's
Yeah.
what they're about. Let's pad our stats tonight.
Yeah.
And whoever is up at the end is up at the end.
Let's just go and let's just go play. So you can get kind of an open gym feeling type of game where there's the potential for a lot of points. And just giving some shout outs to people in the chat too before we go on. Luke Murphy, always a big supporter. Love you, my guy. Sean, thank you. Ios, thank you. Adams, Derwin.
Luke, my boy.
Yeah, Luke, I hear you, man, about Miami. I mean, let's just face it, they are a bad team, but their offense can be effective. And surprisingly, they don't turn the ball over. And they score well on the inside, which is something that Syracuse struggles with. So that's why I went with the full game total. If you wanted to go Q's team total over, I wouldn't blame you a bit. For me, I just think that this game is going to be, like I said, very open gymish with a lot of just kind of freewheeling offense and not a whole lot of lockdown defense because both teams really have nothing to play for.
All right. And the next game we're going to get into is a game that a lot of people I see on the other side of where I'm going with it. Let me see the banner.
I got it. Okay. You're up.
You got two teams coming off big emotional wins this weekend, right? You got one team traveling in Arizona. The entire world is on Arizona at Kansas State. I like Kansas State to win tonight outright. 3.5 points. If you want to take 3.5, cool. I like Kansas State to win outright. Everybody's talking about a big emotional victory. What's funny is there is no big emotional roller coaster for Tang. Okay, this is a coach who has I believe he had them in the Final Four, Elite Eight. Was there in the Elite Eight?
Yep, Elite Eight.
A couple of years ago. Everybody's talking about how Arizona's been, yes, they won. They won a couple of games, but they've had some cardiac crazy moments this season, bro, where it's just like they've gotten very, very lucky to have won some of their games. I mean, we lucked up into a win a couple of Mondays ago when you know they hit a 70-footer to tie the game.
Yep.
So I'm rocking with Kansas State. Take the plus 3.5 if you're scared, or if you just didn't make it to church. But I'm taking them on the money line straight up. The plus 126 calling me. I think they're playing their best ball right now. I love their coach. I think they have the better coach. I think the rosters are relatively evenly matched from a game-to-game basis. And I think that Kansas State can do enough to manipulate them defensively and force them into turning the ball over and coming into a hostile territory where they're not received well. I think Arizona also better team at the crib. And I think that's just a college thing, right? The college atmosphere, you can't really match it.
Yep.
When you go into these gyms, these small, confined gyms, like some of them are just hell to go play in, right? I mean, you see it all the time in major college basketball. Nobody's trying to go to Fog in the middle of February. No one's trying to go to Kansas State where it maybe little Manhattan where everybody is ready to rock, you know. So I love Kansas State tonight, and that's who we're rocking with. Kansas State on the money line plus 126. Kansas State with the plus 3.5 if you're scared, if you want some reassurance. But they're going to win the game at the crib tonight. It's going to go down. Shout out to Coach Tang. I'm drinking the juice.
I like it. All right, on to the next. So this is a conference rematch, and we have Iowa State at Central Florida at 17.
That's Mike right. That's Mike right there. Oh, not to cut you off.
It's Mike.
Not to cut you off, but listen. They're both. That's what I'm saying. They're both playing their best ball at the moment, and I like the home team. I like for Kansas State to bring it. That travel spot for Arizona, I don't love it. But I agree. Both teams playing their best ball. However, that's why I mentioned that college atmosphere. It's a small gym, and you already know what it's hitting for. You already know what you're going to get from both the teams. So that's just, in reference to what he's saying.
Yep. Cool. All right. So on to the next, Iowa State at Central Florida. And I've talked at length a few times on here and elsewhere about kind of maybe being a little bit wary of conference rematches, but this one has the makings to me of a game where the team that won the first game can not only win the second game, but can win the second game pretty handily. So you have an Iowa State team who had a little bit of a blip. And they dropped, obviously, the game at Kansas, which was just one of the ugliest games that I've seen this year. They obviously had the game where Caleb Love hit the shot, which sent him into a little bit of a shell shock into K-State at home, etc. Granted, it was TCU, but they took care of business and they got their swagger back. I wasn't as concerned with the fact that they won by a bunch, but it was how they played and what was missing from their last few games. So what had been missing from their last few games, one was offensively was shot selection, a lot of chucking, a lot of early shots. Offense was so much better. Effective field goal percentage was near 70%. They got to the line 14 times. They out-rebounded TCU. Really was just kind of an ass whipping from start to finish. So now they get a UCF Knights team who has lost not only 4 in a row, but 6 of their last 7. And of their last 3 games against BYU, Cincinnati, Baylor haven't been particularly close. They have lost when they've lost by, BYU, they made it a little bit closer, but Cincinnati by 10, Baylor by 15. And so now they get an Iowa State team that I personally think they just match up absolutely horribly against. So Iowa State, for me, when I looked at this one, I wanted to make sure that I trusted Iowa State offensively enough to be able to cover this number of 6.5. And definitely do, because of, again, how they played in their last game when they got some of their swagger back with some of the shooting I talked about. Curtis Jones got a little bit back on track. But if you're going to have an Iowa State team that's going to be able to at least have a semi-competent offense, as they have pretty much every game with the exception of the K-State game, which was off of a rebound of Love making that shot, losing in overtime. And then Kansas going into Allen, that's always tough. And Kansas uglying the game up. So UCF doesn't do that. UCF plays at a top 15 pace, which matches up well with Iowa State, who plays at the 67th fastest pace. But the one thing that UCF doesn't do that I think can actually really, really hurt them this game is, you can see here, they don't shoot the ball well enough. 252nd in effective field goal percentage. They don't really have a ton of three-point shooters. They have a few guys that can knock it down, but over their last few games, they have just really paid from a shooting perspective. Only 48.7% effective field goal percentage. That would rank almost sub 300. And you cannot do that against an Iowa State team, especially an Iowa State team that's getting some of its offensive mojo back. So the other thing that they don't do that Iowa State does exceptionally well is matching up here inside on the interior. So 47.5% inside the arc. Iowa State defends the interior exceptionally well. They also do so without fouling. So UCF does get 22.3% of its points from the free throw line, which is top 40 in the country. Now, the problem here is that Iowa State is one of the best defenses in the country without fouling, only allowing 15.7 free throws per game. Anything in the 15 to 18 range is considered decent. Anything closing in on 20 is considered average. Anything over 22 is bad from a free throws perspective. So 15.7 is quite good. So if you're not going to send them to the line, you're not going to let them score in the interior, they're going to have to beat you bombing from the arc. And like I said, they do have a few guys that can make the three here. a few of their guards can, but the problem they're running into is when you have 6'1", 6'3" on the wings, this is what hurt them last time, is that then you have 6'4", 6'4", 6'8". You have a lot more length on the wings to handle and close out on the UCF shooters. So for me, I can see the under hitting in this game. I can see, actually, I can see both team total unders hitting in this game, and Iowa State just absolutely grinding out an 8 to 9 point win. So official play here will be Iowa State -6.5.
All right. We can look into the rest of the slate. I mean, obviously, we got Tennessee at Kentucky.
One more game. Yep.
Big game. You got Rick Barnes on the road. Obviously, Pope. What can be described as a great season, based on expectations. Everything in this game is based off expectations. When you expect nothing of a team and they look good, we talk about them like they're the greatest thing ever, and we act like the coach is amazing. Situations like Kentucky can be said we had zero expectations for this team, and I would say that they've pretty much exceeded anything that we would have expected for this program leading into the year. So as far as me, I want Kentucky to win, but I'm sure you're going to tell us, give us a little bit more of a unbiased thought process on this one.
Yeah. So Lamont Butler coming back is going to be, it's obviously going to be big. And he did say that his shoulder is in a good place. Think that I believe he'll be playing tonight, which would be and he is. He's good to go against Tennessee. It's going to be a huge, huge, huge boost for them. Now, so you have kind of two competing storylines here. You have an improving health Kentucky team, but the same Kentucky team without Butler came into Tennessee and beat them on January 28th. But what you also have is you have a Tennessee team where if you watch their game against Oklahoma on Saturday, that was nasty. Their defense was all over the place. They were raining threes in the first half. Their closeout and help the helper defense is just absolutely phenomenal. What do I mean by help the helper is that when a guy's driving or taking the ball off the dribble, you have somebody come up to help him. Well, then that leaves his guy. They do such a good job of recognizing when that's happening, and the next closest guy to the helper races over to hedge to cover that guy, and that's why they're such a good three-point shooting team or three-point defense team. The other reason why they're so good is because they do such a phenomenal job of running what's called a fire or a fist is what some coaches call it. And basically what that means is it's a quick trap. Once a guard gets across to try to force a turnover, what you do then is you leave, you typically bring a fire look from the from your wing, and then you have your other guy rotate down for a lob to cut off a lob pass. So anyways, my point here being is they're so good at doing that. They just dismantled Oklahoma. Do I think Felix plays? I think so, Mike. I got to look, though. If I do touch this one, it might not be till right before game time, till I know exactly who's in, because I don't want to have like some bullshit that they pulled with Fears for Michigan State on Saturday when like 11 minutes before the game, they're like, oh, by the way, he's sick. He's not playing. Oh, thanks. I think Tennessee gets this one. Jackson Robinson is a huge piece for – yeah, he is. He is. Going home, playing how they did against Oklahoma, going on the road even, but getting a revenge game for when they were at home. Even with Butler back, the spread is short for a reason, but man, Tennessee's defense was just so damn impressive on Saturday. I watched that game start to finish, and the coach in me, even though my feelings on Rick Barnes, just the coach in me was like, okay, like that that's how team defense should be played. So if you ever want an example of how team defense should be played, you got to go watch Tennessee and Oklahoma, because the Vols defense and how they communicated, how they rotated was just phenomenal. So the -2.5 on the road, like, I don't like laying that. So I'm probably going to wait on this one to see if maybe I can catch it in game. I do think that the under has a little bit of value, just with how Tennessee is playing defense right now. But you gave me a free play. I would probably take the Vols in a revenge game, even with Butler back. Now, Butler, being back is one thing. Butler, being back to full strength and fully integrated into the offense is a different thing, because he only played 25 minutes against South Carolina. Now, part of that was because they were up by a bunch, but 23 minutes, only had 8 points, only took 5 field goals. So still kind of finding his way. So I do think that Tennessee wins the game. It's probably not something that I'm looking to go on before the game starts, just because it's hard. It's hard for me to take that kind of chalk in a road conference rematch with two teams that are equally matched. So gave me a free play. I would take it on the Vols. Yes, he very much is. Very much is. But I would take the Vols and I would take the under, but it might be one that I'll just watch as a basketball fan and enjoy.
All right. Before we get up out of here, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 NFL quarterback all of a sudden?
Probably, yeah.
I said fuck no, absolutely not. But team's really good, bro. The team's fucking outstanding. The fucking team's fucking loaded. I just wanted to get that out there. I haven't done any live content since the game. I just, the Chiefs, man, they got that ass.
I don't know. Top 5, nah. Top 5, probably not. Top 10, yes, but probably not top 5. Mahomes,
the ass. Jesus Christ.
Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow.
Motherfuckers got stomped out. Jalen Hurts is not top 5. I would take Matt Stafford over him tomorrow. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Yeah. Probably top 10, not top 5.
Top half of the league. I'm disrespectful. I'm being disrespectful now. Let's get up out of here. Let's get up out of here, man.
All right. Best of luck if you're tailing, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.